Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
The Print Off the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, powered by K. Raheja Corp, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank, in association with global insurance brokers, airline partner SpiceJet.
Beginning this brilliant episode of Off the Cuff, remotely unfortunately, but that's the way our life is these days, with A.R. Rahman and Ananya Bidla. You know what is better than having A.R. Rahman on the show? Having A.R. Rahman and Ananya Bidla. Because A.R. Rahman, one, is the past, present, and future of Indian music. And Ananya is the present and the future of a completely new genre of Indian music. In fact, so new that fuddy-duddies like me have to read up a little bit. I need to read up nothing if it's politics, diplomacy, foreign policy, nothing. But you know, in your case, I had to figure out what is electro-pop. Because my idea of pop is Beatles and CCR and stuff like that. So wonderful to have you off the cuff, Rahman Saab. This is our first conversation since that brilliant walk the talk in Ajmer Sharif, in the Dargah. And I remember you were going through your evolution also, and we've seen that Sikh Sufi evolution go on. Tell me first of all, and either of you can answer this. Maybe I'll get Ananya to answer this first. Because Rahman Saab, you agree that she's as much of a star today as you are in this context.
No, that's not true. So I was going to answer this first question.
So, okay, you answered the first question. How did this Olympic song happen? You know, the one reason I'm looking so delighted, one, of course, is that the two of you are here. One reason is that just now India has won the silver medal in weightlifting, the first medal. So, my smiles. Ananya?
So actually, I had called Sir for the official Cheer for India song. And I had worked with Sir in LA about a year and a half ago for another project. It was just for a day and a half, but Sir made me feel very comfortable, and he didn't make me feel any less of an artist. And I think that shows his humility and how gracious he is. And from that day itself, I felt like I had found a mentor that I really didn't have before. So I called him, and he very graciously said that, I would love to do this. And he said, send me a couple of concept ideas that you may have for the song. So I sent him a couple of concept ideas, and that's where the entire process started, really. That's how the whole thing started. And then it's been a collaboration in the name of collaboration, because we all were around the world. So that's how the whole thing started. And, it's the official Cheer for India song for our athletes. So it's an honor for me. And a bigger honor for me is to be working with Sir. And it's a huge milestone for me. And I've learned a lot.
Rahman Saab, what is it with A.R. Rahman and young talent? I'm a fan of yours, your music. And I first heard your music in a Tamil film. In fact, in those days, I used to travel to Chennai often, and Hindi cinema I had not yet discovered you. So I think I saw Roja, Kadlan, films like that, first of all, in Tamil. What is it between A.R. Rahman and young talent? Because I see the songs you compose, film after film, there are new names. I see all these performances when I Google you to listen to your music. I find you with young performers at your Berkeley Orchestra, everywhere. This is a very Guru Shishya kind of relationship. So how do you find this talent, and how do you trust it?
Thank you for the kind introduction. I don't find this age a problem, because when I was young, I worked with a lot of older people, and that helped me to learn so much. And I'm doing completely the reverse now. When I get older, I feel like when I'm working with the younger generation, or people with, especially like she's got electro-pop as her specialty. She's researched on it. She's doing a lot of songs. I think it helps people like me also to grow up to understand what the younger generation is thinking and what their choices are. And music is never young or old, and we're all serving music. So in that, I don't see younger. I see talent. I see gift of what God has given us, a voice or understanding of humanity or lyrics and love. And so, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I felt like her voice is really beautiful when it comes out in songs. And then even in this one, I'd done the song and sent, and she dubbed the voice and sent me. And then I was fairly moved by the voice texture. And I said, okay, let's record it again.
That was too good. That moment was really, really good.
So, Ananya, for fuddy duddies like me, explain what is electro pop, and also tell us more about this movement that Rahman Saab spoke about.
I started my career with electropop, and now sort of it's changed a little bit. I think I've evolved as a person and as an artist to try to remove these labels out of my music, because I think music should touch people regardless of genre, language. I think I was very fearful to sing in Hindi because as a child, many people made fun of my my
Accent.
pronunciations and my accent. So I had to really break through that internal. It's been an internal journey for me. So I think I've broken the shackles of genre and language. So I would love to sing a Spanish song if you want to guide me through that, or a retro song. So electropop is basically just very easy lyrics and thumping beats, and normally it has a drop. So it drops into like either it's like a bass or an 808 or that's basically what electropop is. But my latest stuff, especially like the new album coming out, it's again, just to put a label on it, I would say it's pop R&B more than anything else. I think I've just evolved as an artist, and of course Hindustani way is a I would say it's an iconic, if I'm allowed to say so, it's an A.R. Rahman iconic English song, again, to put a label. For the other part that you asked me, I think, if I'm allowed to say so, from the vibe that I have gotten, I think so has a very natural uh, uh, aura of uh, of giving knowledge to other people, and he doesn't really say it like to make you feel like you don't know anything. It's almost like just a normal conversation. But for example, while we were recording, he said that Hindustani music will really help me to build my ears and also for my songwriting process. And funnily, I had already begun that journey a little bit. So since he said it, I've started doing riyaz more often. And so small things like that make a big difference. I think, so you also believe in how he said, like, music isn't about the past, the present, or the future. It's just something that is infinite and keeps moving forward. So to continue that, I guess the most natural thing would be to hone the future and youngsters' talents. And I think it comes to him very easily. I don't know what it is. I am not sure. I think it's a skill. So I think that would be my answer. I'm sorry if I've said something that is off. Or
No, that's perfect. I know that you started learning to play the santoor very early on in your life as a very young kid. Rahman Saab, see, we can say electro pop, but if I followed your music to the extent that a Philistine like me understands music, I know that you've been completely eclectic with your choices. You've reached out everywhere. You picked up sounds, echoes, instruments, genres from everywhere. Just tell us a little bit about that journey and how does that culminate into this official cheer song for the Indian Olympic contingent?
So I never limit myself with one genre of stuff. I love listening to all kinds of music. And I particularly lean towards classical music, whether it's Indian classical or Western classical, because of the depth and because of the eternality of the composition and harmony and everything. But it's fun to do pop songs. It's fun to do anthems, because your whole functionality of why you're doing music changes according to whether I'm a composer for a movie or a musical or a jingle or a sports song. So in this case, I was thinking of how do we get. I mean, I've used everything. I've used Vande Mataram, Matuje Salam, Satyame Jayate, and Jai Hind, and Janagana Mana. So what else is left? And then she said, "Can we do something with Hindustan?" I said, "Fantastic." And she had like 15 different ideas. And when I tuned it, this really was on the grid. And so I said, let's do something, which is because we are from here and we're proud of that. And let's celebrate that stuff. And yeah.
Ananya, what was the first A.R. Rahman song that you heard and when? What do you remember of it?
I've heard a lot of Sir's music from like Lagan to I've actually heard a lot of. So I grew up listening to like a lot of Elton John and ABBA and Eminem.
My generation. You're my generation. Fantastic.
I is a huge Beatles fan, so I guess she introduced me to that. But at the same time, I was learning the Santoor. So that was a little bit a mix of the two. And then, of course, I was studying economics and management before I dropped out of Oxford to pursue music professionally. So the only other person I used to actually listen to was AR's stuff. So I've listened to really all of his stuff, whether it's also his movie scores. So I watched 99 Songs. I absolutely loved it. I really genuinely loved it.
It's for artists, by artists.
I loved it. I think it's one of the best
Thank you.
films that I've seen in a while, actually. I
Wow.
love it. I really
Interview's over.
I'm not just saying, I honestly told you before I haven't seen it. So I saw it and I loved it.
If I may interrupt, why do you say so?
Because it has it just connects with someone who thinks little differently. It's not a very, something that you see in mainstream. The way Sir has done it and the concept, it just connects at a level that no other film for me has recently connected with. For example, if a movie like Forrest Gump connected with me the same way 99 Songs connected with me, it's got that slightly different mindset. I don't know how to really explain it. I just really connected with it. The entire storyline, all the music, it was amazing. I thought so, and I think many people out there also, Sir is known for having very strong Indian roots but a global appeal, and I think even 99 Songs that. So yeah, I've grown up on Sir's music, and it's actually in my previous interviews, if you look at, they ask who's your dream collaboration, it was always A.R. Rahman. So it's been a pleasure.
I have a question from Rishikesh Joshi, who's a founder for Sports for All, one of the official sponsors of the Indian Olympic contingent. So Rahman Saab, question for you. Sport in itself is an emotion. Exactly how music is ultimately an emotion. So sport is also an emotion. He wants to know. Cricket, as we famously say, is not just a sport, but just an emotion in India. How best can we combine both these emotions of sport and music to create a larger impact, to bring Indian society together and also build a sporting culture?
I think sports it's connected to the progress, physical progress, mental progress, psychological progress, and it unites people. It could also divide people because when you go jingoistic. But I felt like a person who was, even from the age of 11, I would just be in music, and I missed sports because I was in the studios most of the time. So my only thing was probably, other things like kite and cycling and all the stuff. When my son plays, basketball, and I said, please go. You don't have to do music for now, and then just play now and get your body in shape and have fun. I never had.
He can be able to do better music than you, but he can do better basketball than you.
Music is something which it comes in, right? The more deeper you go into life, the more you dwell deep, it comes to you. It's not like people are born with music. I was not born with music. I was born in a musical family, but it was my choice, like how Ananya has made music a choice. I had to go deep because my mother made the choice for me. And so I believe that what my mother made is good for me. And then I went deep into it. So that's how I evolved. So it's, I would rather have people play a lot of sports than go into other bad habits like vices and other stuff, because it distracts all the stuff. It gives you an emotional outlet and the void is filled in. So I feel like it's a great idea, definitely combining music and sports. And that's one of the reasons why I think I've done a lot of movies now already. Lagan, then this Pele I did, which is not even our culture, but I got lucky to do that movie. And then now Hindustani Way, Foot Song. And I don't even think twice. Should I do again? No, so like there'll be another way. There'll be another expression. Let's try that.
So let me ask you a follow-up. You said music can also divide, particularly if you go.
No, I'm saying musical sports. Sports goes like this against that.
Music or sport can also divide if you go too jingoistic. So what is too jingoistic, and what is the difference between jingoism and patriotism? I'm taking you right back to a debate that George Orwell started, in fact, at a particular time. Nationalism.
Say something quickly. I think Sir meant sport can divide because it can be like a competition, right? But I think in terms of music, everyone can have an opinion or can say that they don't like this or like that, but it doesn't divide, if I'm allowed to say so. It's more like
music doesn't divide. Music crosses all the divides actually.
Yeah, but sport can divide if it's overly jingoistic.
Yeah, but then you have this admiration, even if it's an opponent. If somebody is good, you admire them, right? I mean, even in music, it's like if somebody is more gifted or somebody has done a beautiful composition, you feel like, oh, there's a gift. And I think similarly to sports, you can have fun. You can say, yeah, we won, they lost, but the spirit of sports is always there's a unity in it. I feel like
so
we learn from each other.
So your song, The Hindustani Way, the sounds, the music, the action, it's very animated. Both of you, I have watched it. I mean, there is nothing there that says, I love my opponent to beat me.
That's true. That's what I think. Nobody gets up in the morning, okay, I should lose and let the opponent win. We actually win ourselves. We have to win our lazy self to the smart self. Or, we are fighting against ourselves, first of all. And for that, we need a spirit. And that spirit is music, actually. A song or how it motivates you to think, yeah, Hindustani way, let's win it. Or, yeah, Mat Tujhe Salam. Or Chali Chalo,
Yes.
So I know sports people have to also motivate themselves to the limits. At Olympic level, competition is really very, very, very stiff. So I can only recount a conversation. Sania Mirza has featured thrice on Walk the Talk. The first time she featured, she was still an early teenager. She was a kid. And that is when she got to the second round at the Australian Open. And we recorded this in her school in Hyderabad.
Wow.
And she was famous for her forehand. And I said, when you are playing with your forehand, what is it that comes most to your mind when you're playing, when you look at your opponent? And she said, the only thing I want to do is use my forehand and hit the ball as hard as possible in that one's belly. So that is killer instinct. Ananya, sport is about killer instinct also, no?
Totally. My brother used to play professional cricket until he gave it up to get into business. I mean, the discipline, the hard work, just that josh to want to win, I think is something that we tried to bring out through Hindustani way as well. It's all about having that right from the moment you wake up that I'm going to kill this day today. I'm going to do my best. I'm not going to let any negativity come into my mind. Like so was a lot of yeah.
I think training yourself, your mind is the most important.
Exactly.
Because there's so many different ways to attack your, emotion and your drive. So if you can train your mind, you can do anything. You can do sports, you can do music, because one tweet or one email or one SMS or somebody saying something negative can completely make your energy. So you need to have a mental virtual trash where you throw all that stuff and say, no, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do.
How do you deal with negativity? I know a lot is thrown at you.
All of us.
All of you.
I personally think I always see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like there is goodness in everybody. And then we just go towards that. And everything is forgiven when you do something admirable and when you do something which is noble. And yeah.
Ananya, you've dealt with negativity. So I have a question for you from one of my youngest colleagues,
Okay.
Revati Krishnan, who used to play tennis at a fairly serious level. Revati says, you openly spoke about your battle with depression. How difficult was it to speak about it publicly? Do you think this will have a trickle-down effect, a good trickle-down effect?
So the only reason I really I'm a very introverted person actually. I'm very, very sensitive. The only reason I spoke about it was I think something from within told me that the stigma around it is so much that hopefully if I speak about it, it'll, even if it helps one person to think that they should seek help in some way or that they're not going crazy or mad, and it's normal to face these things, then I've achieved a lot. Maybe that's why I was going through these things. Like Sir said, I think it's a constant battle that there's a lot of negative. There's a lot of negative self-talk that can happen where you doubt yourself or you see an email and it triggers you, and then you just I just sometimes I just when I'm having a little bit of a tough day, I just shut down. So I just put everything away and I'm just listening to music in studio and I just shut down because that's my coping mechanism. Uh, when I was a child, I remember I would just stay in bed because I'd listen to music because I couldn't face the world. Now it's become the opposite where I push myself harder to work. So yeah, it's a constant. I'm much better now, but there are days where I think it's normal where you wake up and you don't feel like doing much, and then music is a thing that I use to help myself to feel empowered, and then by the time it's nighttime you feel better, and then you stay up all night in studio and you try to make good music. So it's a constant up and down that I experience. I think the most important thing is to keep going and to know that an idle mind is your worst enemy. So if I'm not doing anything, my mind will just attack me. So
Yeah, I think we have to get up every morning thinking what is going to be thrown at me and how
exactly.
am I going to manage it. But for instance, I do shows and sometimes, you have 50,000 people, 90,000 people, and then suddenly you say the singer has not come or this musician has not come. And so, oh my God, we rehearsed with that musician. What am I going to do? Okay, plan B. Let's do. Come, guys.
Yeah.
And then you have to think of a plan because the people have bought tickets. They're waiting for you to perform. They should not know what went wrong, but they should know that this is a fantastic musical treat, and they gave the best, and then we want to come back again. So in every from my first recording, there was stuff, there were challenges. Like my first recording, which I was Mani Ratnam, most of the musicians didn't turn up. They said we have other 4 songs for another composer. We went further. That's more money for us. You're just doing one song. I said okay, let me go ahead, and the whole song changed because of that. So.
Now they probably really regret it.
Which song was that?
Dil Chota Sa, like the first song.
And it original was a Tamil version.
Yeah, original Tamil version.
Chinna Chinna Asa, if I remember correctly. I saw it in Tamil first.
Shekhar knows all the lyrics in and out. I love it.
In fact, there was a time when we were driving long distance in the US and we had only one tape in the car, in our rented car, and that tape was the Tamil version of those 2 films, films of Rahman Saab. So my son, who was then I think 9, he could sing them all in full chaste Tamil. So. Rahman Saab, everybody knows that music is therapeutic. Music can be therapeutic. You are also a spiritual person. You've thought spiritually all your life. have you used music for therapy for yourself as well?
Yes, I think if you look at all the beautiful music, it comes from a place which is special. And whether you take Hindustani music or Beethoven, or you read stories about how Beethoven used to come out of the room crying that, did I do this? Or, why did I become the Zaria for this? Why was I chosen for this? And we all have that. In Hindustani classical, is another drug actually. If you go on a rag like Yaman or Bhatiyar or Bhairavi, sometimes you feel like elated. You feel like this world is not worth it because you're in a higher level of realm singing, that rag. And Qawwali. And for me, the two artists who suddenly changed my mood is like Michael Jackson's albums and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Saab's. So if I'm down, sometimes you feel like I don't have energy. These two bring an energy from, I don't know from where. I think they've secretly put that in their music. And I feel so alive after that. I mean, no, there's no intake of any drug, medicine or anything. But it changes the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Ananya, did you find music therapeutic?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think music is a mix of a crutch for me. It's a expression for me. It's something that makes me wonder why we are here, where we are. It takes me to a higher realm for sure. It's also something that grounds me. So it's also something that pushes me to be a better person and a better artist. It's also something that brings me closer to people I love. So it's also something that makes me feel very vulnerable, and I've found strength in vulnerability, because you sing from your heart and you sing things, you sing about, I sing about experiences that I've been through, whatever that may be. So when someone else hears it, I feel like, oh, they know everything about me. But that's the reason why I make music, is to make people feel like they're not alone. So I think my music personally, the goal is to reach out to the misfits out there, the people in society who feel like they're different in some
Like me.
so, and to bring us together, because society teaches us so many things, and I think it's a matter of unlearning what we don't believe in. Yeah.
Sorry, Naman Sahab, I have a question for you from one of our subscribers, Sunil Mandava, who says, which song or album, I know you heard this question, but to answer it, which song or album was the toughest to compose and which one was the easiest? Came up like in minutes.
Oh God. I think when we are in tune with the story and the director, things are easier. But when you get into a team which is fighting, sometimes the director and the producer will be fighting. And then you feel, I don't know what to do because you're in the project. That's when I think the toughest, because then you do one and the director likes it, the producer comes and changes. And I've dealt with some of the products. But if everybody's in unison, I think it's the easiest. I think they trust, we love each other, we want to do something great for the movie. And mostly my job is as a music composer.
Yeah. So in fact, this music therapy was also a question from Rishi Desai from Government Hospital Daman. You've answered it. Now, Naman Sahab, you tell me, do you believe in generation gap?
There is generation gap, but I think the world now is slightly different. Like now, unlike the previous generations where they used to complain, those days, we used to do this. I think we are all, knowledge is for everyone. It is not like people have to learn what WhatsApp is. People have to learn what SMS is, what email is. I think 15 years back, I knew people who didn't know what email was. What is email? Give me a phone number, they'll say. Because I don't pick up my phones, I got an email. And now I think everybody kind of is catching up with everything. Generation gap, I think in the Indian society, I feel like I've changed a lot from the previous generations, whether I'm dealing with my daughters, my son, and whether how I dealt with my mom or with my wife. A lot of things have changed the way because of my travel, and so I look at a much more broader perspective, my more philosophical perspective, more like if I am in their place, will I do this, and why are they doing this? And so my life is much more easier to understand rather than complaining. So we kind of gel with each other better.
Did you get the sense sometimes that, that mediocrity gets together when threatened by talent, phenomenal talent like yours? And did you feel that push in Hindi cinema?
Actually, in a way, when I look at history, people have this thing. They love somebody, they want to move on. They want to move on. What's the next big thing? And what's the next big thing? So, and you see many amazing composers, singers left behind, even though they could have sung more. Then I look at the West. Then I look at Andrea Bocelli. I look at John Williams. Andrea Bocelli is singing for the past, 30, 40, 50 years. He's blind and he's one of the voices. They respect his talent. And from Italy. Then I look at Akira Kurosawa, who's in 80s and 90s, he was making, 90s, right? He was making amazing movies because he didn't care about what the society didn't care about his age, but they just grabbed his talent. And then if you look at John Williams, again, 80s, still composing with Star Wars. And so then I realized actually the mental trap is within you. If you think you're aged, if you think you're phased out, you're phased out. But if you think if you can evolve and you think you can give more and adding all the experience and the strength and resources you have, then you excel. So it is a trap which society puts on yourself to make you feel like you're redundant and you're finished or anything. And I've seen many people go to the trap and learn from that. It is not the trap which the society actually put on them, but they made it and then they trapped themselves. And this is something I learned in the past 20 years. But luckily for me, every 3 years they say he's finished. I have to come back.
Well, I think that people keep writing those epitaphs all the time, but
I love that one.
Yeah, and in fact, that's done with sports people also all the time. That so and so is finished now, and people keep coming back. So Ananya, you have a fan of yours, Aditya Joshi, who's at PwC at Luxembourg, in fact, but he's obviously a BITS Pilani alum. So he says, when can you next grace BITS Pilani with another concert on the campus?
That's so kind. Yeah, the last time I was at BITS, it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. All the well-wishers and the audience was amazing. I don't know when I would love to get back on tour. Even when I toured India, it was amazing. It depends on when it's safe for everyone and when this pandemic sort of settles down. We can't be selfish and have tours and go out and do shows when the world is suffering so much. So it really depends on the universe and on God when this ends. But I'm ready. There's new music. I would love to perform Hindustani Way live also. So yeah, whenever all of this comes.
You have any favorite lines from Hindustani Way?
I think the hook. The Hindustani way, har pal har dil ye gaye. And also, here we come, it's our time. India, we're here to fight. I think that just, puts the message right across that we're here. India, we're here to fight. And that killer instinct that you were talking about, Shekharji, and that what I was talking about, that winning spirit right from when you wake up, I think it captures that.
Rahman Sahab, you have a favorite line from the India Way? Hindustani Way?
Yeah, I love the hook. And that's why we put that at the beginning and we kept promoting that because, hey, Hindustani. I think when you use a word like Hindustan, like I've seen people use it. Also, I've done in 1994, Mr. Ghai had one song from a movie which never got made called Shikhar.
Subhash Ghai,
And
yes.
in that, you know that? Okay. So in that we had Mera Hindustan, Mera it has something like that. But from that to this is a major shift, the way Hindustan is pronounced. So I love this.
I remember I watched a promo of that at one of our Screen Awards. So a promo was put up on the stage, but the movie never happened, unfortunately. For
Yeah.
whatever. So, Ananya, did you feel any generation gap working with Rahman?
No, not at all.
Dada of Dadas.
No, not at all. Like a typical, like a Guruji.
Just
would
that
have-
she danced well, and I have to match that. I was like closing my eyes.
It was actually a lot of fun. No, absolutely not. Genuinely, absolutely not. Sir didn't even like pick up on he didn't even like nag me on my pronunciations or anything, which a typical like Guruji would have said. Like, he was very relaxed, and it was. I'm sure if it was really wrong, he would have said, but I guess it was on the line. So, yeah, it was fine. There was no generation gap at all. I was very comfortable.
Rahman, in your own evolution, what has your spirituality, how has spirituality influenced it?
I think basic spirituality is about killing ego, and there's a duality here. If you kill your ego, then why do you have to produce the best music ever, or why do you work towards? So then you have to separate these two egos: this personal ego and the professional ego. Professional one is to sit there and say, I want to make the greatest song ever with my capabilities, put it to the fullest, enable it fully, and the human potential. And then if spirituality is enabling that you can, as I told you, the mind is the nucleus of everything. The mind can make a very strong person weak or a very weak person strong. So if you can control the mind, and that's what spirituality does to you, and it gives you that inner strength and believe in the unseen, in the infinite, and then how you can derive the strength from the infinite to yourself. And of course, we all fight about which is infinite, your infinite or my infinite. I think it's a common one. We all call with different names, and so that's it.
Ananya, this is a question from Shankar Narayanan from Tata Group. Is musical talent inborn to a great extent, or is it acquired through diligent work and training?
I think it's through hard work and training. Of course, if you grow up around people who, if your family's into music and you're listening to it from a young age, I think it does help tune your ears to a certain extent. But after that, you have to keep at it. It's not something that just happens. You have to work hard. You have to make your own mistakes. Certain songs do well, certain songs don't do well, and I think you have to take that in your stride. So yeah, I think it's hard work and just learning, continuously learning.
Learning, yes. So I know that both of you are busy people. We are also working across different time zones. So Rahman sir, before I let you in, I have a lot of questions from our subscribers, but I will answer all of them as long as they ask me about politics, because the print is about politics, and we say because politics matters, because politics determines democracy and our rights of freedom of speech. So I will answer all the questions on your behalf as long as they ask me about politics, not more. So before I let you go, can you give a parting message in a musical way? Both of you, either of you. I mean, one by one.
I don't like being put on the spot, but
But you are there now.
Yeah, I think it's her song. I'll just look at her and I'll enjoy what she sings.
So as my mentor and senior, so I think, so you should do this.
No, you should do it first.
Hey, the Hindustani way, jeet hamari har nas mein.
Okay, and Rahman sir?
We'll do the next time on Ajmer Sharif. I think we go back there.
That better be soon, because last one was about almost 12, 13 years back. I was a little bit younger than this at that point. You become younger since.
No, I'm just wearing a cap.
No, you become younger because you work with young people all the time. That is the trick. So both of you stay this way, keep smiling, and let's all follow the Hindustani way, and let's all keep winning the right way. So thank you very much, and all the best to our contingent as well. And the
I would
best.
Thank
like to say one last thing, that Mirabai has won the silver medal.
Yes.
So, and I would like to give a big congratulations to her. That's made us all very proud.
By Chanu. And also, Manipur is a tiny state, and somehow in Indian national headlines, Manipur is all about trouble, but Manipur is among us. Our
Manipur is beautiful. Manipur is beautiful. I've been there.
states also for music, dance, everything, and sport. So well done, and let's keep counting. And thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Shekhar.
The Print of the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, powered by K. Raheja Corp, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank, in association with global insurance brokers, airline partner SpiceJet.